New York City is a place of change and random development controlled by the marketplace. And because of that, wise professionals have always said, you can't have urban plan here, it won't work, nothing can possibly occur. A true urban plan will do three things. It'll include the full diversity of all the human activities that go on here. It will take individual activities and relate them to the context as a whole. It can't just be any one group, it's got to be the whole. And it'll make access to activities easy and clear. Streets are the lifeblood of this place. And lots of our important institutions, began in the streets. That's where the stock market began. That's where the activities, diversity, and energy of the city come together. They are New York's great public spaces. And so therefore, urban planning has got to include public space to enhance each community. Where's my button? Is that my button? Great. The green button. That button. I found my button. Grand Central created Midtown New York. The city now has a proposal to increase density by changing the zoning. And it's at the same time, there is going to be a major change because of direct access to and from Long Island for thousands of people below Grand Central. It's almost complete. Another year, you'll be able to take a train. The subterranean cavern that's there will be the introduction to the city. Nigh great 120-foot tall public hall, no. It'll be a concourse that starts 120 feet through the rock of Manhattan. Doesn't give access directly to Grand Central. It gives access to Madison Avenue. There'll be three ways out of this place. One will be to the north, one to the south, and if you're clever, you'll figure out how to use it to get to the lower level food court of Grand Central. This means that the city's life is going to change. The streets are not going to be used in the same way as we're used to. And as a part of that, we with MAS have been pressing on the city to think about not just tall buildings, not just how to look like Shanghai, but how the life of the community could continue and be more diverse and better, not just more of the same. This is a view of Park Avenue with just volumetric buildings, which is in essence the way the scheme was thought about. There was no consideration of landmarks, and a view like this could be anywhere. It's when you see those things, though, you begin to understand, I'm in New York. And so the city proposal makes tall buildings very possible. Look at the scale of Grand Central, which is the red thing, in relation to other buildings that are already here. And to the right, you see what is currently possible with the proposed plan. And so already the structures around Grand Central sort of dwarf it and are beginning to take away light and air. And already the street life has gotten complex. So we need to think about, and I was pleased to see the city's presentation this morning, that indeed we've begun to influence their thinking. We have to think about what happens on any one of those buildings could suddenly appear, and that's not the point. For us, it's the life that would occur in the city, and that we need, in effect, an urban plan.
Thanks, Hugh. Many of MAS's initiatives focus on culture as a catalyst for a more livable city. We've learned the possibilities of planning for culture with our work in downtown Brooklyn. Hugh and H3, if you could go back 1 second, have been involved in multiple arts projects in the Fort Greene neighborhood, and we've seen how they've been instrumental to the resurgence of downtown Brooklyn. It wasn't long ago that the Academy of Music and the Majestic Theater were derelict and exhausted shells of the borough's former grandeur. Visitors boarded special buses in Manhattan, known as the BAM bus, because they were too afraid to venture to this unknown world of Brooklyn. Thank goodness that idea has passed its prime. It all started with this unique cultural space, now known as the BAM Harvey, where we took the shell of the old Majestic Theater and remade its seating in an innovative way, shaping the space to encourage alternative performance and new media. As BAM's reputation grew, we created new gathering spaces. The Rose Cinema and BAM Cafe were the first of its kind in downtown Brooklyn, multi-purpose art spaces drawing new and younger audiences to inventive artistic performance. We restored the Opera House to its original form, but added a canopy and lighting and contemporary design in contrast. This diversity of spaces has been expanded last year with the opening of the BAM Fisher Building, containing one of the most advanced experimental performance spaces built today, as well as home to BAM's growing education program. And opening next week, the Theater for a New Audience, a 21st century Globe theater that will make Shakespeare accessible to modern audiences. Over the past 2 decades, support from the city to the cultural sphere of Brooklyn has been essential to expanding this homegrown treasure and its community street life. By 2015, nearly 10,000 new units of housing will have been completed, drawn to the livability of downtown Brooklyn. More vital and diverse, the transformation of downtown Brooklyn is an exceptional example of how planning and culture can result in a new livable city. Another area where MAS has been in the forefront is in their advocacy of the waterfront. Our restoration and renewal of Pier A at Battery Park is an example where public funding and private uses can come together in a glorious way. Pier A is the oldest remaining pier structure in Manhattan, a remnant of when West Street was purely industrial, the warehouse and loading dock for the city. During its 8 decades as functioning as a service building for the Department of Ports and the fire department, it was a place not open to the public. And by 1998, it suffered the indignity of abandonment. No one was willing to put it to productive use, which is strange because in today's eyes, we can't understand why such an important place could be so forgotten. At the foot of West Street, it's the hinge between Battery Park and Battery Park City, both rejuvenated by public access to the water. When we started its renewal, we acknowledged its waterfront setting and reinforced its structure, placed its mechanicals in the attic, and used a geothermal river loop to cool the building. When Sandy hit last year, these initiatives allowed the building to weather the storm. Today, with its restoration nearly complete, Pier A is an example of how we need not abandon our waterfront in the face of climate change. New and active uses can be designed in harmony with the waterfront, making it more accessible and enjoyable for the public.
The next and last, you'll be pleased. There are several factors to consider in an urban plan. There exists in the case of Midtown West. There's the conflict between transportation and Madison Square Garden, which MAS and the Regional Plan Association are committed to unraveling. And you have heard already today about possible sites. Our suggestion is that whatever site is chosen, that it also include the development of the neighborhood as well. At the same time that's going on, you realize that Amtrak is busily, a federal agency, is busy thinking about a gateway project that will not only bring Amtrak to Penn Station, but perhaps connect to Grand Central and the whole Eastern Seaboard. And in the process, this generation could live to see travel times between distant cities shrink. Think what that would do to the marketplace. So the transit operation is an amazing opportunity. And what we wanted to suggest was we shouldn't forget the waterfront as we think about the future of this part of town. Here is the Amtrak proposal called Gateway, and it's amazing how many things could be knitted together here. It's amazing to see that Penn Station could not only be more beautiful, but it could actually access more human beings. And as the nature of the place, of course it should be open, and of course it should have lots of daylight, and of course it ought to have retail and all the rest. And of course this is all possible, particularly thinking about its relation to Farley, whatever the future of Farley becomes. It's a wonderful opportunity to imagine terraces and open park space so missing in this part of town. So the possibility of connecting all these parts, each in turn important, but put together as a whole, they become a new Midtown. And of course, I have to say, wouldn't it be great if you could not only do all this, but get to the airport in some intelligent fashion? So, of all the planning projects this generation, you are a generation that is inheriting an extraordinary opportunity. Midtown West is the one with the greatest potential influence on the future of the entire city. More than just a train station, it's the creation of a new Midtown, a new plan for a 21st century city, including culture, architecture, design, finance, real estate, transit, parks, and landmarks. MAS and the Regional Plan Association are prepared to ensure the 10 years given by the Planning Commission will be well used before the next renewal of MSG, the MSG lease. So let's all get to work.